Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Hello, listener. It's your host, Lara Jane, and I am so excited to introduce you to my new best friend. Her name is Aimee, and she is a registered nurse. And the topic that we are going to talk about is the lifestyle change that we have to do when we get the diagnosis, whatever that diagnosis is at. We go and go and go, and we push ourselves until something medically tells us we have to change. And unfortunately, I waited that long. Many others waited that long. I would love to find the magic pill that helps us wake up before it's too late, but I haven't found that yet. So, Aimee, I am so excited to have you kind of help us deal with that lifestyle change, because I know it was overwhelming for me and it put me in a spin for a while. And so it really does take someone who knows how to help you through that. So turn it to you.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me to talk to you and give you my perspective. One, as what I like to call high achieving women, right? Like you said, when we're going, we have so much to do in our daily lives. We wear all of these hats, right? Professional, mother, wife, and friend, sister, and all of these things that have us going. And so I identify as that person as well as giving you the perspective from what I have experienced as a nurse. And so again, thank you for having me. And so I don't know if you want me to share a little bit of my background, but I'll just do a little snippet. Just a little snippet. And so I've been a nurse for 12 years, and primarily I like to say I'm a cardiac nurse. And so I love working with patients with matters of the heart. I've dabbled in some case management, and so helping patients and families navigate the healthcare system and coordinate services. Now I am an educator. I teach pre-licensure nursing students as well as a health and wellness coach. And so I help women like you and I harmonize their lives, reclaim their health, and prioritize themselves without compromising the roles and the many things that we have to do. And so to get into our topic today, I 100% can relate to you. Having going, and then having that diagnosis when the doctor says, okay, you have to slow down. Something's going to have to make a change, right? And so I've been there, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But the first thing I think that we overlook that as patients, as clients, is a mindset check. When you get that diagnosis, whatever it is, the one thing that sometimes the doctor might not tell you, the nurse might not tell you, your loved one or anyone might not be with you, but a mindset check. And what I mean by that is those feelings that come when you hear the diagnosis. Sometimes we get so consumed and it overtakes us. And so my advice is to take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to feel how you are feeling with that new diagnosis. Take a moment to gather yourself and to gather your thoughts. Express them, but don't stay there. Okay? Take a moment and, feel what you're feeling. Because people go through different stages. We're human. Feel what you're feeling, but do not stay there. A big part of your healing and accomplishing any health and wellness goals that you have, it starts with your mind. If you get that diagnosis and you are stuck on everything that might be considered negative surrounding that diagnosis, I'm never going to do this, I can't do that, I'm not going to overcome this, or this diagnosis is not going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z. If you stay there in your mind, it's not going to benefit you. right? It's not going to benefit you. It's not going to motivate you. And another thing that's going to happen there is the stress hormones. I know we've probably all heard about those, but stress hormones are real. They will spike in your body when they feel that stress coming on as a flight or fight. They're trying to protect you, but in actual reality, they work against the diagnosis. They work against your progression. So a lot of these things start in our minds. Mental health check. Mental health is important when you are dealing with any type of lifestyle change, any type of new diagnosis. 100% make sure that you don't ignore your feelings, don't suppress them, but do not stay there. Make sure that you do what you have to do to move, to get out of that feeling so you can keep progressing and get forward and move forward. The other thing that goes along with that is to advocate. This is something else that I feel like as clients and as patients, we're not often educated on how to do this, or we don't remember that as a patient, you are a part of the healthcare team. You are
it. You are it. The others are your helpers.
Yes. You are it. That is, yes, you are the patient. You may have received the diagnosis, but you are a part of you getting better. You are a part of it. And so don't exit yourself out of the conversation. Advocate for yourself, right? Ask questions. Ask about different treatment options. Ask about other holistic modalities that can help you. Ask about different specialists. What I'm really saying is, if you're not getting to the answers from your physician or from whoever gave you that diagnosis, find somebody that's going to help you get to those answers. Research and to help you navigate the system so you can get to what you're looking for. Because what you want to do is start to make educated and informed decisions. When your doctor is telling you you should follow this treatment plan, you should take this medication, you should make this lifestyle changes, you want to understand why. You want to understand, what can I do that aligns with who you are and what aligns with what you can do realistically. And you want to understand, okay, my doctor's telling me, or whomever's telling me to follow this path, but ask those questions. Why? Is there anything else I can do? Is there another option other than surgery? Is there another option other than this medication? Can I meet with a nutritionist and change my diet? Those types of things. Make sure you advocate and you're not afraid to ask questions, because you are a part of your healthcare team. It shouldn't just be everybody else telling you what to do. You should be a part of that conversation. 100%. The other thing that goes along with advocating is, of course, educating. Okay. And so a part of educating yourself when you receive a new diagnosis is finding out what you can do differently to heal your body, and figuring out works with and against your body. A lot of times, yes, as a nurse and medical professionals, yes, we study healthcare, we study medicine, we study science, but we also understand that it's not a one size fits all. So just because it's prescribed for you, it's recommended, sometimes it may work, sometimes it might not. And so really listening to your body and really understanding, like, hey, this is working and this isn't working. And I said earlier that I was that woman. I was that higher achieving person who was just going, and ended up with a diagnosis. And so in 2011, if I can just share a little bit of my story. In 2011, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so for those of you who may or may not know, it is an autoimmune disease that causes me to have flare-ups. And so I realized that a lot of my triggers for my flares was stress. It could be internal stress. It could be environmental stress. It didn't matter. And so, of course, I was placed on medication. But I did not change anything for me personally. I ate the same. My physical activity was whenever I felt like it, or whenever I felt I had the time, because that's a lot. That's pretty big. I don't have the time. I don't feel like it. And I did not change anything about learning how to manage stress. And so what I thought was, just like anybody else, even though I'm a nurse, is okay, so my doctor prescribed me the medication. It should help manage the disease, right? And so long story short, I ended up going to 5 different medications and even being placed on anti-anxiety medication. And so I had to make up in my mind, like, I can't keep doing this to my body. I can't keep living like this. And so that is when I decided to educate myself and do a little bit more research. I found other people living with the disease and started to kind of educate myself on what are some other people doing that I could be doing to kind of help with this. And that is when I found out that there are certain things that are actually feeding the disease, which in turn was my diet and my lack of physical activity and the simple fact that I did not focus on my mental health. And so once I started to really educate myself on those things, I started to, which brings me to my next point, make realistic goals to make those types of changes. And so once you gather that education and you say, okay, this is what it's going to take for me to change and heal my body, you start to make realistic goals, right? Drastic changes, we know, it's probably not going to be sustainable, but I started to make realistic goals. And so what I mean by that is if your diagnosis suggests that you make changes to your diet, do it, but make sure you speak with your physician, speak with your nutritionist, speak with whoever you need to speak with about doing it realistically. If you're a person that's addicted to sugar, or addicted to, or been eating a certain way for a long time, going home and throwing out everything in your refrigerator is not going to be sustainable. You need to make realistic, small changes to make sure that it is sustainable after you've gone through that education. And so again, it goes back to mindsets. If you are, let's say, like a newly diagnosed diabetic and changes to your diet is necessary. If you have a negative outlook on diet, or if you don't have a positive or something that's going to help you get around those dietary changes, it's going to be hard to change your habits. And so you have to make sure that when you're making these changes, you understand why those changes are necessary. You connect them with why you need and why you want to make those changes. Connect them with a purpose. And so as you're telling yourself, I'm not going to live with this diagnosis forever. I'm going to beat this diagnosis. I'm going to manage it. I'm going to be in better health. I'm going to be in better shape. As you start to tell yourself and you believe those things, align your actions with it. Okay. Make sure that you're working on your mental health as you're making these changes that align with the diagnosis.
Wow, that is a lot of information.
Yes.
So if we were to summarize so far, we've talked about, being a part of the team,
yes,
doing your research, not just taking what the doctor says as this is the only thing you have to do. Look at alternatives and change your mindset or work with your mindset. And then what's next? So we're going to take a quick break. Have a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I think talking a little bit more about that mental piece, because I know when I was diagnosed with sugar diabetes, it threw me for a loop. I did not understand the books. Like they're telling you in one way, don't eat sugar, and then everything has sugar in it. And it was just this nightmare. So getting that education, getting that somebody to talk to that can help you navigate that. So when we come back, I want to talk about the mental health and the navigation of how do we get to understand these things more. Yeah. So we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com.
All right, we are back. And so I have just really enjoyed listening to you and one of the things that just keeps coming back in my mind was you had mentioned you got on the medication. And then it was later that the other things started creeping up. And I know for me, I've had other things too. Like I think I usually talk about my heart problems, but as a diabetic, I honestly thought that all I had to do was take the medicine and not change anything because that was going to fix it. And then they just kept adding more medicine on and adding more medicine until I couldn't take anymore. And so there was a huge shift in I have got to take control of this for me or choose to live for the rest of my life on medication that just makes you feel funky. And so it took me 9 months before my doctor let me go off my medication, but it happened. And so it can be done, but it is definitely a mental process to get there. So let's talk through some of those mental changes that we need to do.
Yes. And so as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things, it's important to realize that no one is saying that hearing these diagnoses or anything that it's easy or that you should just get over it or many people live with it, so everything will be okay. Like you said, it can really shake somebody's world. It can really have you wondering, what does this mean? What does this mean for my future? And so on and so forth. And so I think that really confronting your emotions, really dealing with it and really expressing that this is how I feel when I remember getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I had so much going on at that moment, and all I could do was just break down and just start crying because it was a chronic condition and there's no cure. And so all I could do was just in my mind it went to, as I get older, somebody's gonna have to take care of me. I might not be able to do, I'm going to be disabled, all of these things. And so my mind went there, but I had to tell myself that, Aimee, you can't stay here, because if you stay here, those things are going to happen. That is how things are going to be. So like you said, you have to find a way to say, okay, I have to get control of this. And so one of the things about when I talk about shifting your mindset is really determining, what are your goals? What are your goals for you? And what are your goals for this diagnosis? Are you a person who just wants to be able to manage the diagnosis with the medication? Do you want to be, is your goal to be free of the diagnosis? Those types of things. And so what you have to do is figure out, where do you want to go? What are your goals? And like you said, you wanted to be off the medication. And so once you figure out where you want to go, then let's go. Let's shift your mindset. Let's educate ourselves. Let's do what we have to do in order to get there. And so that's not to say that you're not going to have moments where that mind might kind of double back a little bit, but you can't stay there. It's a constant journey to say, I'm going to keep pressing forward. I'm going to get the information. Although this is what my doctor says I should take, this is not going to be my life. I am going to do what I have to do, change my diet, exercise. I'm going to do all of these things in order to get me to moving forward. And you mentioned that with being diagnosed with diabetes, everything has sugar in it. And absolutely it does. I was reading I can't remember what the name of it was. I was reading a book. It's called Fast Like a Girl. And so she basically talks about the benefits of fasting. And she kind of gives you the back history of food. And when the United States was hit with the obesity pandemic and all this other kind of stuff, they took out other things but added sugar for the taste and added all of these unhealthy fillers. So although they might have been low in calories, they're high in sugar. They're high in sugar and they're high in all of these things that we should not be eating. And so you turn to somebody who needs to change their diet and they try to eat healthy, but it's like, what are my options? Everything is loaded with things that everybody's telling me I shouldn't have. And so with that, the mental check, the mental mindset, once you make that shift, is not going to let that be a barrier for you. It's not going to let that stand in your way. If you don't make that mental shift and that that mindset check, then you might just be like, well, I have no options. So I'm just going to keep eating the way that I eat. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and just take the medicine because they told me to do this. But that mental check and that mental mindset is not going to let those barriers and those obstacles stand in your way. They're going to say, you know what? I just need to find another way because I'm going to get off of this medication. This diagnosis is not going to rule my life. I am going to take charge of this. And so that is why I say the mental and the mindset, everything starts there 100%. If you don't check your mind and what you think about what the diagnosis is, it's going to be very hard for you to make those changes and take back control of your health 100%.
You know, and one of the things that I think, and this is going to sound generalization and maybe not completely accurate, but I feel like in the US, our doctors treat symptoms. And yes, you can get rid of that headache and you make the pain go away. Yes, I can control your sugars. Yes, I can. They can give you things to control the symptom, but the symptom's not the problem. And it's digging further and deeper into what is causing this, where you can get relief. And I love my doctor. I absolutely love, and my cardiologist was a whole body cardiologist. Yes, she fixed my heart, but she cared about all of me. And so there are amazing doctors in this world. So I don't want to make it sound like I am bad-mouthing our medical people, but we really do focus more on the symptom and not the cause. And how do we get a lot of research to start looking at how does this happen and how do we correct it from there? And I love aspirin. It gets rid of my headache in a moment, but it's the stress that caused it. And how do I minimize the stress so I don't ever have to take that aspirin again?
Yes, you are 100% speaking my language, because unfortunately, that is, especially when you're busy and you live in the corporate world, you live and you have all of these different things going on, and we end up with the symptom, right? And so all we know is the symptom, go to the doctor, they give you the medication, you should not have these symptoms anymore, and you keep going the same exact way. And so I absolutely love that you brought up that treating the symptom is not enough. It's not enough. It brings on, so eventually what will happen is that your body will get used to the medication, overcome that medication, and now we're back to the doctor and the doctor's adding more medication and we're going and going. And as that's continuing to happen, what we don't realize is it's continuing to add more stress on our body. And the one thing that we thought we should be solving now turns into a ripple effect of other things that now have to be solved. And so The one thing that go ahead.
No, I'm thinking of those advertisements on television of this treats this, and these are the side effects. Yeah. Okay, healthy eating does not have those side effects. Right. And going on a walk. Just blow me away. Like, oh yeah, sure, I want diarrhea. Really, what is it that we really want? Do we want a healing, or do we want just to deal?
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so one of the things that I say, but like, if you can, even if you are diagnosed or you see like certain things, fatigue, GI gut issues starting to happen, those headaches are starting to come along. If you are noticing those things, take a moment and say, when do I notice those things, right? Is it before each day before my daily meetings, or is it at the end of the day after I've been going all day and haven't had enough to eat, or haven't had a time to sit down and take a moment to just breathe and to shut my brain down a little bit, focus inward, and just say, okay, let me pause, let me take a breath, let me do some breathing exercises to reset my neural system. Let me ground myself for a moment before I jump from one busy thing to the next busy thing. And so I like that you said that, because a lot of things that we're experiencing can be found once we start to look inward. We start to look at, how busy is my schedule? Have I had enough time to drink enough fluids today? How has my diet been? Has it been complementary to my schedule, or has it been complementary to the nutrients that I need to put within my body? How have I been responding to myself? And so a lot of times, if we're not paying attention to what we actually need and how to prioritize ourselves, meaning I like to talk about self-care, and I'm not talking about self-care as in getting your nails done and, doing all of these things, right? And so I absolutely,
and that's self-gratification. That's not self-care.
Yes, absolutely. And so when we think about self-care, I want you to think about, when was the last time you just went outside and went for a walk? When was the last time you did something that you enjoyed? Because when we turn to something that we enjoy, we turn our mind off of all the busyness that's going on in the world. Yeah. We decrease our cortisol levels. We decrease the stress that's inflaming our body on a constant basis. When we eat the right things that are good for our bodies, then we'll see different results. And sometimes the way I say to try to get around that, for me personally, is through meal prepping. Because I notice if my schedule's busy and I have meal prepped for the week, I'm more likely to grab something out of the refrigerator and I can heat that up and eat it, rather than saying, what's the closest restaurant near me that has other things. And so the way we plan out our schedules and we plan out our days from day to day, we should be planning in, how am I going to take care of myself today? How am I going to give back and pour into me? So everything else that I'm doing, I am giving from my overflow. How do I take care of me? And once we start to look internally, we'll start to figure out, okay, I'm having these headaches because I didn't drink enough water today. I did not have a moment to, everything is so overwhelming and overstimulating my mind and my body. And what people don't understand is, when we're in that constant state of going and stress, that stress brings on inflammation. That inflammation brings on disease. The inflammation brings on side effects, because our body is trying to fight. And so, hey, listen, take a moment. I need you to take care of me. I need you to be with me. Listen to me. Listen to what I'm telling you. Your head is hurting, but it's because your body's trying to talk to you and say, hey, slow down a little bit. I need a little bit more nutrients in this area. I need you to take care of me. So let's go for a walk. Getting outside can do wonders. I'm not asking you to go for a run or do anything strenuous, right? Just take a moment and disconnect, go for a walk, and just do something for you. Yes.
I love that. And it's a perfect kind of ending note of do something for you.
Yeah.
After we've been diagnosed, after we've gotten this plan, after we've done our research, after we've done all these things, we can live the happy life. We can live it without. We can be happy and miserable at the same time. But I think really key thing that you talked about was that self-reflection. That's probably not the word you used, but that what is it? My husband is one that he knows when something he ate caused something in his body. He just knows. He is so in tune with his body. It drives me nuts because how do you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know. I have shut those parts off of my connection to my brain. And so I really have to do a self-reflection of what did I eat today? What did I do today? Why maybe am I having this headache? And then find ways to not really prevent it but to take care of myself better. Yeah. And when you talk about self-care, that is caring for this body and this mind, not its beauty and not its how other people are going to perceive it, but how you feel in your body. And so I love that is your focus, because if you don't reflect and figure out where those things are getting triggered from, you're not going to be able to correct it or change it. Right. So I love the message that you're sharing with us. And not to break tradition, I would love to hear just that last few words of wisdom that our listener can take with them and integrate into their life in a really simple way.
Yes. And so I like this. So if I am able to leave your audience and everyone listening with one lasting takeaway, I want you to remember that your mental health, your physical health, and your gut health are all connected. All of those things you need to take care of in order to thrive in your health and wellness. They are not separate. It is not do one thing over here, do another thing. As you start to understand the connection between all of those things, it is a key factor into managing, reversing, and preventing disease. Understanding that how you treat yourself mentally, how you treat yourself physically, and what you allow to fester and to go into your gut, they are all connected and can affect one another. So be mindful of the self-care that you give to your body, how you take care of your mind, your physical body, and what you're putting into your body. Be mindful of those things.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah. I have really appreciated your time. Listener, I am not a medical professional. I am here for entertainment purposes. I get to have medical professionals here with me. And so that is so much fun. But yes, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll talk to you soon.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.